Yeah, I don't think I can top that. You're probably going to experience whiplash from this video because I'm neither as graceful or as stunning as that intro. Hi, how are you? My name's Beta, and today we'll be talking about Furality, the biggest furry convention to ever happen so far. I can already feel the people in the comments foaming at the mouth at that claim. The biggest furry convention ever, but it was only in VRChat. So it clearly shouldn't count as a furry convention, right? Well, that was the big debate on Twitter for the past week or so. A little TLDR, I'm recording this video a week after Furality Aqua took off and happened. Everyone had a blast at the event, and it ended up being that over 15,000 people attended this convention. And whether that's actual people that logged into the world or just bought the ticket online, that's crazy for something that is strictly in virtual reality, in VRChat only. That's kind of fucking insane. Especially knowing you have these big in-person physical furry conventions like AnthroCon, MFF, FWA, so on and so forth. And that's great and all, but we can't have nice things thanks to some wonderful individuals on Twitter. And unfortunately, for the past week, the big debating point for Furality is whether or not it is considered a furry convention, and in turn, if the actual attendance rate can be considered that Furality was the biggest furry convention to have happened so far. Well, of course it isn't considered a furry convention, right? It only happened in VRChat, on a platform that a limited number of people have access to, right? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to be tying some of my personal experiences at furry conventions and from my experiences at Furality into this whole mess to figure out if people are just being dumb. Which I'm gonna spoil it for you, yeah, that's what's happening. For those that don't know, Furality is basically an online virtual reality furry event. Also known as Furality Online Experience, or FOX for short. It's an online virtual reality event that takes place twice a year, usually around May to June or November to December, specifically on the VRChat platform. The convention or event itself is run by 100 or so indie game developers who just so happen to be furries and wanted to bring to life some sort of virtual convention experience. For a bit more context, you all remember 2020, right? That was an amazing year. Now, minus all the stuff that was happening that year, the big thing that was really taking off at the time was virtual reality. Virtual reality was becoming more accessible for everyday people. You could pretty much order a Valve Index, or if you're that guy, an Oculus, and get it within like a week to a month or so. You set it up with your PC and then you have access to the virtual world. VRChat, Neos VR, it's all accessible to you. And this whole thing sort of kicked off around mid to late 2020, going into 2021. And with VR becoming such a popular concept, the idea of a virtual furry convention came to mind. A lot of these conventions were canceling throughout 2020, so what do you do from there? A lot of them just up and went to whatever virtual platform would have them, whether it's a YouTube live stream, Twitch live stream, whatever you might have it. But back in May of 2020, Furality kicked off, and it was intended to be a VR-only furry convention. It had no intention of being a physical furry convention, just online virtual convention. With a little bit more context for how the history of Furality started, which I'm referencing Furry Wiki here, so this is a reliable source. The idea of Furality Online Experience, or Furality, was published on May 28th, 2020 through their Telegram channel. The convention gathered widespread attention in the virtual reality community. It was originally proposed as a convention that never ends, since the idea was that VRChat is a platform that will continue to be online after the convention is over. Another reason for this was that furry meetups on VRChat happened very frequently around the time that the first Furality was hosted. And the thing about Furality, even from the get-go, is that it wasn't supposed to be just like 12 dudes in a VRChat world jerking each other off and inviting so many people off of a list or a queue that they had to join a specific world that they put together like a week before the event started. Like I said before, Furality is run by about 100 indie game developers who have taken so much time to put together these amazing worlds and experiences. And keep in mind, this event happens twice a year, so they have 6 months to plan for when the next Furality is happening. And it's been going since May of 2020, so we're on our 5th iteration or so of Furality, with the last one being Furality Aqua, so it's aquatic or underwater themed. Now, I would say that Furality came around at a very crucial point, because 2020 was how it was, and we all wanted to interact with people. It just seemed a bit more convenient to interact via virtual reality. And so the reception of Furality Online Experience was immeasurable. And here we are just 2 years later, after the 5th Furality kicking off, with the last attendance being over 15,000 people, and $22,000 raised for charity. Which, the charity's nice and all, but I think the 15,000 people that spent money to go to an event like this, even if they couldn't fully attend, even if they just bought the ticket to support the convention or the indie game developers, 15,000 people spent money on a virtual reality furry convention, when furry conventions have been known to be in-person physical events for years. But now that we have a little bit of history and background of Furality, let's just talk about how the convention was. Well, I'll tell you, because I attended my first Furality Aqua this last Sunday, or rather Monday at 3 a.m. because I was too anxious to hop on VRChat throughout the weekend. So after signing up for Furality and integrating everything with VRChat and the Furality website and the client and whatever, it was pretty easy for me to get into the main lobby area of the Furality event. And I'm not going to try to describe this, I'm just going to show you the first things that you see when you enter Furality Aqua. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, this is more breathtaking than some furry conventions that I walk into for the first time. Which, first off, shout out to Hayu Martin for putting together the musical pieces for Furality, because that's the first thing that hits you as soon as you enter the event. The music design for Furality Aqua was breathtaking. It was beautiful. And pair that with the visuals of what the main world looks like. Oh my god. And of course, there was plenty to explore with the main area. You had the artist submission area to go through sort of an artist alley of art submitted to the convention that they showcased below the main area. And the world itself is just a wide open, explorable region to interact with other people who might be in the same instance as you. You also have little interactable, like, AI fish swimming around the world, which to some were pretty creepy, and to be honest, my thalassophobia was kicking in hard whenever I looked straight at them. But honestly, the small details in this world spoke numbers. And keep in mind, the main Furality world is one of many. There's a dealer's den world you can join, which pretty much showcases any VR artists or modelers that might have commissions open or might want to be showcasing their work. They also have free models that you can download and use from the convention, so fun little thing. I didn't see it at the time, but you also probably have some like panel, like main stage areas for like events happening or panelists that might have wanted to give talks or perform, or musical artists. And speaking of musical artists, there was a rave area for any DJs that wanted to perform during the con itself. As for this being a fully fledged furry convention, it was all there. You have the dealer's den, you have the artist alley, you have the main area where everyone can mingle and interact, sort of similar to a main lobby in a furry convention hotel. You have the different panel areas for performing artists or anyone that might want to give a talk. You have a main stage area for opening and closing ceremonies. Pretty much you have all the rooms that are pretty much accessible at any other furry convention. And I haven't even mentioned the best part about Furality Aqua so far. It was only $15 to experience a furry convention in virtual reality, which, if you don't know, most physical furry conventions nowadays cost around $50 to $60 just to register, and this isn't even including like travel and hotel expenses, which in this case we're counting hotel and travel expenses because that is the furry convention experience. Let's take my case for example with Anthrocon, which unfortunately I had to cancel this year because finances have been a bit tight. I did a bit of number crunching and calculated that in order for me to attend Anthrocon, which includes flight prices, hotel prices, and whatever food that I'd be needing for that weekend, it would cost me 100 times the amount that it cost for me to attend Furality. $1,500 give or take, to go to a furry convention that is not local to me, which for some people it's either more or less, but for my case, it was 100 times the amount. The point that I'm trying to drive home here is that Furality should be considered an actual furry convention. I know the debate is that it's not an in-person convention, but just looking at the facts here, Furality is an event that takes place 3 days during a given year, or I guess in this case 6 because it performs twice, so that time you only have access to that specific world. You cannot access Furality Aqua before or even now after the convention. You have access to all the amenities of the convention. You are paying the $15 entry fee to have access to it. You are interacting with others who are attendees of the convention itself. You're interacting with panelists and event holders, the EDM artists, the raves, everything. All for the $15 during that limited time. And even though it's not a physical convention, it is an in-person event where you can be whatever character, whatever model you want to be, and interact with whoever you might want to. I think not calling Furality a furry convention is doing a disservice to these wonderful individuals that have put so much time and effort into making this event happen. And they have 6 months to make it happen. Literally starting now, they have 6 months to make the next Furality happen, which I don't even know what the theme of that'll be, but they're building the world from the ground up. Also, if that's not driving the point home, Furality is listed as an NPO, you know, a non-profit organization, something that's required to label yourself as in order to perform yearly and charge people money to attend your event. I think I'm digressing here, but the point is, Furality is a massive event. If a team of over 100 indie game devs is working on this, you can bet your ass that it's probably a big thing. The one thing that I'll say is that if you're like me and you're kind of avoiding VRChat because of anxiety or you just don't feel it, give Furality a try. Especially this November or December, whenever they're performing for the later half of this year. Try out Furality. It literally is only 15 to like 20 bucks. It is probably the cheapest furry convention experience you will ever have. If anything, if you've never been to a furry convention before, this might be your opportunity to dip your toes in the water of whatever might be going on. From the programming that I saw on the live streams on Twitch and the videos that people have uploaded so far, Furality is running like every other furry convention out there. And I can say that because I've attended furry conventions. So whatever this weird, stupid debate is, Furality is a convention, at least in my eyes. If anything, instead of like shooting it down for it not being a physical furry convention, like bring it up. It literally is an opportunity for those that have invested time and energy into the virtual world, which is sort of the main lingering point of all of this, which I haven't talked about before. But virtual reality is a very big and upcoming thing in the furry fandom. It still is, and it's been going for like 2 years now. If anything, virtual reality is becoming more of a central aspect to expressing what the furry fandom is about. Because think about it this way, minus fursuits, what is the best way to be able to represent yourself as your fursona out there? The best example I have is creating a model of your fursona and being that in VR. I will tell you this as someone who has had a fursuit. Getting to be your own model, your own character in VRChat pretty much lines up with being your character in fursuit. I mean, minus being hot and sweaty and being weighed down by a 5-pound fursuit head, it's still a very surreal experience. If anything, it's kind of cheaper than getting a fursuit nowadays. I'm rambling on, but the point is, this whole debate that happened this weekend about Furality not being a furry convention or shouldn't be considered an actual furry event is giving a disservice to those who have put time and effort into this event, but also those who are trying to get an alternative experience to being able to attend and experience what the furry fandom is about. But either way, if you haven't experienced Furality yet, please do whatever you can to try it. Most PCs can run it. You don't need a VR headset in order to attend, and you can turn down the quality in the models to as low as possible to just run VRChat. If you can run VRChat, you can run Furality. And just go and check out the website for more details. Even if you can't attend the whole weekend, just dropping the registration fee is enough to support the indie game developers who put tireless amounts of effort into Furality. I'm going to be trying it again this November, and I'm hoping I'll get to see you at the next Furality then. But either way, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below, and if you want me to do more videos like this, go and support Furality. Just look it up on Google, or I'll link it in the description, either or, whatever works. And if you haven't already, go and watch my old VRChat videos. I know it's not really a furry convention experience on those, but they're more funny moments and shenanigans that I've had with friends in VR. I'm going to try and do more in the future, so again, if you like any of those, let me know. Also, support me on Patreon and all that, because I gotta pay bills too, and I couldn't go to Anthrocon. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I just had to be a responsible adult and not empty my bank account this time. Besides that, I've got nothing else. Have a wonderful day, guys, and as always, stay life jacket. Take care.